On its northwestern side, the floodplain of the River Yecker had been raised by the fortifications. Extra security was provided by a steeply embanked trench containing machine guns, anti-tank cannon and searchlights. Similarly equipped trenches faced west and south, and here there were also 4-meter-high walls. The Allies counted on Ebony Mail holding out for at least 5 days, which would give their troops time to get in position on the Deal Line. The mission of capturing Ebony Mail was entrusted to a tiny but highly trained unit of 78 parachute engineers. The key element in the attack was the use of gliders, which transported the troops to their target in absolute silence. Attack from the air was the one thing Ebony Mail was not protected against. When the gliders crash-landed onto its roof in the dawn half-light of May the 10th, the defenders were taken completely by surprise. In the first 10 minutes, the Germans occupied 9 installations. They then blew up the casemates and cupolas of all the guns with a new, high-intensity hollow charge explosive. Finally, they kept the fort's garrison of 1,200 men pinned down until the arrival, 24 hours later, of the advanced troops from 6th Army. The capture of Ebony Mail was achieved with the loss of only 6 German dead and 15 wounded. It was a sensational coup. Afterwards, Hitler would decorate personally all the engineers who had taken part in the operation. About an hour and a half after the opening of the German offensive in the north, the French commander, General Gamelin, ordered the implementation of the Deal plan. The units of the Allied First Army Group rolled across the Belgian border and advanced towards their allotted positions along the River Deal. Here they planned to halt the advancing Germans. Gamelin felt calm and confident, delighted that the Germans were attacking just where he had guessed they would. On the Allied left, the French 7th Army raced northwards to link up with the Dutch as part of Gamelin's so-called Breda variant. By lunchtime the following day, they reached Tilburg, only to find their advance cut off by the 9th Panzer Division. The Dutch had already been forced to retreat northwards. Gamelin's Breda variant was thus negated at a stroke, and Giraud had no option but to fall back towards Antwerp. Along the River Deal itself, other Allied units were horrified to find that the defences were incomplete. Worst of all, the quick collapse of Ebony Mail had already forced the Belgians to start falling back toward the Deal, well before many of the Allied units had even got into position. As battle was being joined in the Low Countries, to the south, Army Group A's massive armoured formations were moving forward towards the Ardennes. These were arrayed in 3 densely packed blocks, with armoured divisions in the first 2 and motorised infantry in the third. Altogether, their columns stretched out for 100 miles. Overhead, an immense umbrella of Luftwaffe fighters flew cover against any possible air attack by the Allies. But with Allied eyes fixed firmly on Belgium, no such attack came. Within 2 days, the mechanised spearheads of Army Group A erupted out of the Ardennes. Surging across the French border, they arrived at the banks of the River Meuse on the afternoon of May the 12th. The German forces in this sector comprised 3 panzer divisions and the elite Großdeutschland motorized infantry regiment. For their imminent attempt to cross the river, they were promised overwhelming air support. Facing them were 10 infantry divisions drawn from the French 9th and 2nd armies. These were woefully short of anti-tank and anti-aircraft artillery, and 6 of the divisions consisted of reservists, many of whom were over 40 years old. The successful crossing of the Meuse was vital for the German invasion. Only then would the panzers be able to fan out and operate on favorable ground. When the Germans launched their assault, the main effort was made just west of Sedan. On the afternoon of the 13th, 12 squadrons of Stukas struck and forced the French gunners on the far side of the river to retreat into their dugouts. At 4 p.m., detachments of panzer infantry in rubber boats began crossing the river. These units managed to secure a toehold on the opposite bank. By midnight, the Germans had driven a wedge 5 miles deep in the French defences and built another bridge across which the panzers began to pour. On the 14th of May, Allied airstrikes were mounted against the German bridgeheads, but as in Belgium, ground flak units beat them off, inflicting heavy casualties. Indeed, in this engagement, the RAF incurred the greatest rate of loss it ever sustained in any single operation, losing 40 out of 71 planes. By that afternoon, all 3 panzer divisions, 1st, 2nd and 10th, were across the river and had repulsed a French counterattack. Commanding them was General Heinz Guderian. Aged 52, Guderian was a pioneer of Blitzkrieg tactics and its most outstanding exponent. Although the German High Command mistrusted Guderian's revolutionary theories, Hitler found them attractive and had sanctioned the earlier formation of panzer divisions. In command of an armoured corps for the invasion of Poland, Guderian had played a key role in the German victory. His tanks achieved deep penetration with such incredible speed, they earned their commander the nickname Hurrying Heinz. Despite his success, the High Command continued to feel uneasy about Guderian's methods of striking into enemy terrain far ahead of infantry support. Consequently, when arrangements were being finalized for the Western offensive, they made his command subordinate to the more conservatively minded General Paul Ludwig von Kleist. With his tanks safely across the Meuse, a number of options were open to Guderian. He could wait for the infantry, who were still 36 hours away from Sedan, to catch up. He could push on towards Paris, or swing round to take the Maginot defences from the rear. However, Guderian ordered 1st and 2nd Panzer to change direction and drive west toward the Ardennes Canal, with the objective of breaking clear through the French defences. The Ardennes Canal formed the hinge between the French 2nd and 9th armies, and if Guderian could breach that line, he would split apart the Allied armies and strike at the flank and rear of the forces moving into Belgium. The main danger was that the swing west would leave his left flank exposed, and he left the 10th Panzer and the Großdeutschland regiment to guard against any Allied counterstrike.